So I've had a couple of people ask me about kind of the process I go through in building. So what I'm looking at here is the aileron assembly. So I'm going to start working on my ailerons, and that image right there is the aileron skin with the rib locations indicated, and this gives an indication of where the holes should be for each of the ribs. And you see it just depicted here. And there are a number of other small parts in the ailerons, such as the aileron hinge, depicted here. It's a piano hinge, actually depicted here. And then there's the balancing, aileron balance or counterbalance. And you have to assemble the counterbalance with ribs with a piece of lead in between it here. And one of the pieces on this counterbalance piece assembly is a little channel assembly here. Now if I go back, I'm going to go back one plan sheet. That was plan sheet W03, wing 03. I'm going to go back to wing 04, and this shows this is the aileron detail, so it has all the parts that you have to get ready first before you do the aileron assembly. And one of those is that little clip that's in the counterbalance. In order to make that clip, you have to cut these two pieces. You see there's two pieces that are riveted together from some angle stock. It says Z0203 angle stock. So that starts from this, a piece of aluminum, 0203 angle. It's 032 angle. I guess that's about 1.5 inches on each side. And I have to cut a piece that is 3 3/16 inch long, and actually I'm going to need two of these assemblies, two of these channel assemblies, and each one is made up of two pieces of this aluminum. So I actually need 4 pieces, 3 3/16 inch long. So I want to cut those first. Now in order to do that, I have to cut a nice straight edge on this aluminum. So first thing I do is mark it with a square, so I get a nice square edge. I cut it on the bandsaw and then file it smooth and square. And then from there I can measure my 3 3/16. I have this nifty measuring tool. And I just lay this square part up against the aluminum, and then find 3 3/16. This is the 16th inch scale here, 16th of an inch scale. Go to 3 3/16. I can mark right through that little slot there with my super fine point Sharpie marker right onto the aluminum. And then I'll cut that on the bandsaw, just wide of that, and then file it so it's nice and square and right to the line, and then square off the piece of aluminum channel angle so that I'm ready to make the next piece. So that's what I'm going to do first. So there's my line that I've cut, marked, and I'm going to cut this on the bandsaw. So this has been cut with the bandsaw now, and I'm going to file that down, but instead of a file, I have a wheel that is Scotch-Brite material and compacted, and I'll use that to get it right to the line. So there it is, cut to the line, and then smoothed off with the Scotch-Brite wheel. Now I'm making this smaller piece here. So in order to do that, obviously, and this is this drawing is two sides, so the legs of this angle have to get cut down, obviously. So how high? Well, 9/16 on this side, and this side, 1/2 inch. So now I have to go and mark the lengths of these sides of the angle, 1 to 9/16, 1 to 1/2 inch. After I've done that, then I have to cut this angle off of one edge, one end of the piece, 3/8 in down from the top and 3/8 in from the end. Cut that angle off. Then I can put the two pieces together. This other piece that I already have done is this piece. Put the two pieces together so that there is 1 inch from the outer edge, that is the outer edge, to the outer edge of the other side. Clamp them together, then we'll drill holes starting from 1/4 inch in. I believe that's 1/4 inch in. Yeah, 1/4 inch in from the end, and then 1/2 inch between each of the rivet holes, and then we'll rivet it together. So next step is to cut down the legs of this angle. Okay, I've marked this. It's 1/2 on one side and 9/16 on the other. So now I'm going to take it to the bandsaw, cut it. Okay, so this has been cut down and filed smooth to the correct lengths on either side. It should, in theory, match up with this. And it does. Okay. So now I have to cut this angle on it. Right there. That angle there. This thing is not focusing. But it's 3/8 by 3/8. So there's my mark. I'm just going to cut that with a pair of snips. And there it is, cut off and smoothed off. Just to show you what can happen when you're not paying real close attention to the details. So I was just going to take these two pieces that I had cut, trimmed to length, put them together, clamp them together to make the one assembly, and realized then I cut the angle on this smaller piece on the wrong end. I have to cut that angle on this end. Now I'm not just going to cut the angle on this end and use this. I'm just going to remake this piece the right way. Okay, so there's the one side, and here is the other side with the angle cut on the right end. So now I just put these together so they meet up like that. Essentially the outside edge of this piece lines up with the edge of the angle on the other piece. I clamp them together and then drill the holes for the rivets. So what I'm going to do first, before I clamp them together, is I'm going to measure and mark where the holes should be on this smaller piece. The smaller piece. Well, I could trying to decide which piece I'm going to mark the holes on. Let's see. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Although this is showing 1/4 inch, the holes should be 1/4 inch from the outside edge here of this assembly. So that would be safer for me to measure from the outside edge of the assembly or the outside edge of this bigger piece of angle. In other words, from here to where the hole is, not from the inside part of that angle, of this other angle. So I'm going to measure the outside of this angle, 1/4 inch in from this little point right there. And I'm going to mark the holes here. And then I will, I'll pilot drill this piece, assemble the two together, clamp them, drill through the other piece, and then cleco them together. So that's the next step. So I measured, first of all, 1/4 inch in from the end, sorry, wrong end. Wrong end. Should be viewing it this way. 1/4 inch in from the end, and then we view it this way. 1/4 inch from the edge, the long edge. That's the first rivet hole, and then these are 1/2 inch in between each. So 1/4 inch, 3/4, 1.25 inch, 1 3/4, 2 1/4. So those are my rivet holes. So I'm going to pilot drill this. Then I'm going to clamp the two together and drill through the two of them and cleco them together. Okay, I have the holes drilled. I'm just going to quickly deburr them with this deburring tool. And then I'm going to clamp these two pieces together with these nifty little clamps. Let me get my pliers. With these pliers, you can pull these clamps apart. And so let me line these up. Okay. So there it is, clamped up. It's going to be, for this view, it looks like that. And this view is going to be from this angle, once the holes are drilled through it. And this view is looking at it this way. So now I'm going to make sure it's aligned correctly still with me messing with it, twirling it around here. Drill through these pilot holes and cleco it with some cleco clamps. Then we will up drill the holes to the size for the rivet, which would be, this is a number 40 pilot hole. I'll drill those first. And we'll up drill it with a number 30, which is approximately 1/8 of an inch. Then we will take everything apart, clean it all up with Scotch-Brite, get all the marks off, the markings off. Cleco it together with the clecos, put a couple rivets in, and rivet it, pull the clecos out, put the rest of the rivets in, and that will be 1 of 2 that I need. So there it is, all up drilled and cleco together with those cleco clamps. Now I'm going to take it apart, get rid of all these marks with some acetone, clean everything up with some Scotch-Brite, deburr the holes as necessary, and then we'll just cleco it back together like that. Start putting in the rivets, and that's it. Okay, these pieces are cleaned up. I put some self-etching primer only on pieces of metal that are actually going to be in direct contact with each other. Probably not necessary on 6061 T6, but that's what I'm doing. And then the only other thing I'll cleco these together, and the only other thing to look at is to make sure that when the rivets go in, they go in the direction shown in the plans. Typically you would normally put the factory head of the rivet against the thicker piece of metal, and the shop head, piece that gets pulled, made wide when you pull the rivet, would be on the thick sorry, on the thicker piece. The shop head would be on the thinner piece. In this case, both pieces are the same thickness. You would go by what's shown in the plans, because if you do it the other way, there might be interference problems with a future assembly. So that's the next step. So now I'm going to go pull these rivets. So here is the finished piece. See it in that drawing there, like that. This drawing, it's like this. And then, oh, I mean, it's in this view, sorry, in this view, it's that. Now this piece, I need another one just like it. They get used in this assembly. You'll see it here in this drawing here. This way. And it gets used in this assembly. That's the aileron counterweight. It gets put inside the aileron, towards the end of the aileron, here. So it's actually going to be somewhere up in this area. It's up in here. This view AA is looking this way. So it's like that. So that's it. I need another one of these now.